AFM, 10 minutes past 11, and we've got Madonna in with us. Hello, Madonna.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
2003, it seems so long ago, doesn't it?
2003. I know you kind of look back now and you go, what was I doing? I don't even know what. And I remember, my mother's in the room, but I don't want to talk about what I was doing back in 2003. No.
I'm sure she has no idea.
I think it was fresh nurse, I think it was.
Yeah, right.
Fresh new.
Yeah. I was still working from home back then. Yep.
Yeah, long time ago.
Long time ago.
All right. Now we're talking all things skin.
Yeah. So dermatitis, psoriasis, eczema, all that sort of jazz. The sort of things these days that are becoming popular, like psoriatic arthritis and things like that. There's so many delightful skin problems.
Yeah.
Lots of new fungal things that are getting weird and wonderful names that I'm getting people coming in with. They bring it in on a piece of paper. They say, this is what I've been diagnosed with. And
by Dr. Google or an actual doctor?
Oh no, by actual doctors.
Okay.
Yeah, there's just more of them these days because I'm not recognising some of the new. So it must be different strains of fungus or something like that. Yeah. Have you ever had skin problems, or you've been lucky?
I'm always lucky.
Yeah.
No, actually, I do suffer from psoriasis, but like, excuse me, a couple of years ago, a very wise woman indeed put me onto this thing called Selsun Gold shampoo.
Yes.
And put it on my psoriasis,
yes.
and it dries it up and it settles it down, and I haven't had a problem since. But then I left the tropics too, so the humidity does irritate my skin a lot. And it's been humid for the last few days.
Yeah. And then it often depends what's in underlying that. So fungus hates heat, fungus hates humidity. So if there's a fungal plus or something else thing going on. So have you heard of T Hopper 1, 2 and 3, T Hopper 17s in the immune system, like in relating to the skin? So basically when you're looking at stuff like eczema, it's a T Hopper 2 excess problem. It's more an allergy that's in the same group of things as hay fever, sinus, asthma, that type of thing. They're T Hopper 2 excess conditions. When you're looking at psoriasis, that's an autoimmune condition. That's more relating to excess T Hopper 1 cells. So, and goes hand in hand with other autoimmune conditions like Graves' disease or Hashimoto's or rheumatoid arthritis or, so the autoimmune thing. And I think at last count there are about 120 different autoimmune diseases. I was at an autoimmune congress about 5 years ago where they said it was 70. So because there's sort of several things that link to autoimmunity, they're now putting all sorts of things in that category because it's about inflammation, it's about gut toxicity, it's about inability of the immune system to cope. So it doesn't take too much to sort of go, well, this condition can be linked to those three things.
Which is a concern, considering it's the environmental factors that actually affect the immune response. So
exactly.
It's quite concerning when you think of it.
It is, it is. And when we're looking at things like eczema, so T Hopper 2 problems, what we've got to do is get that histamine under control, which is why some people do really well when they're taking antihistamines. Now, one of the problems with this is that your cells can be primed, so your mast cells in the body, the white blood cells, they can be primed for making histamine. So there's a new condition these days, yay, called MCAS. So it's been around about 10 years actually, but it's certainly just making it into the mainstream literature. And it's called mast cell activation syndrome. Have you had much to do with that?
I've heard a bit. I haven't had a great deal.
Yeah. So basically what ends up happening is the histamine doesn't leave the body. So the histamine stays in the cells in the body, and histamine is an amino acid. So in perfect levels and in a perfect world, we need to have things like histamine. If you have an allergic response, you need the histamine to break up whatever protein or something that it is in your body that's causing the reaction, because that's what one of the things histamine does. It helps to break down protein structures so that the immune system or the gut or the liver or the kidneys or the lymphatic system can deal with it. But with MCAS, mast cell activation syndrome, this histamine doesn't leave and it starts building up in the tissues. And the main tissues it builds up in are the spine, the brain, the uterus for women, testes for men. No, the men do have one.
Oh, so it is
yeah. But also the gut. So you can imagine people who they're now, and I know we're talking skin, but certainly with people with like chronic eczema, dermatitis, hay fever, psoriasis, those sort of things, histamine can actually be part of the problem. So unless someone isn't releasing that histamine from the body, it can keep coming back over and over again. And of course, this is one of the things people often say to me, as long as they keep using their steroid creams, they're fine. But they have other side effects, so people try to pull back and not use it, regularly. And just using a steroid cream doesn't stop the histamine response. So that can still be driving the inflammation in the background. And of course, what steroids are doing is shutting down the immune system, so you're having less of a response. So, but as soon as you go off, the histamine's released again, it's still stored in the body, so back comes your skin problem.
So all these antihistamines that we do take do initially fix the problem, but they don't fix the entire problem.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And then when you think about T helper, it's like a seesaw. So when I first started studying 27 years ago, they said, this isn't true these days, by the way, but the way it was taught to us at the time was you couldn't have excess T helper 1 cells and excess T helper 2 cells at the same time. Unfortunately, that's a furphy. So we know that that's not true these days. Some people, unfortunately, can have both psoriasis and eczema running simultaneously.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so it's
not always one or the other. It's very common for people to be treated for psoriasis, and then they realise they've also got eczema that's been left untreated for a period of time because they're focusing on the psoriasis.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And they are too. Now, from a naturopathic standpoint, we sort of go back to the gut. So the T helper 3s and the T helper 17s, they live in the gut. So 90% of our immunity is in the gut. So when we've got something going on with our T helper 1, T helper 2s out of balance, the T helper 3s and 17s are having a snooze. So they're just not doing their job. So or they've been destroyed, or something's gone on, or their home isn't working properly, or there's something going on in the gut where they have lost their ability to keep T helper 1 and T helper 2 balanced.
Yeah, so it gets a bit nasty.
It does, and because the gut is so many layers, it's like 6 layers deep. So because it's so many layers, and the immune layer is like the 4th layer down. So it's interacting with the environment from both the blood from one side and the gut from the other side, and the immune layer is taking in the information it's getting from both directions.
And it's common, isn't it, to treat one thing and ignore something that most of us don't know there's other underlying. We're talking about all these things like heavy minerals and heavy metals, and things like that as a whole really do affect how you respond to things and how your immune system does work.
Absolutely.
So it's easy to be busy and focus on this, put the cream on, put the steroids on, antihistamines.
Yes.
But you can have those underlying problems.
Absolutely.
And you're the best person to talk about.
That's right.
Speaking of which, have you heard of, you obviously know the band Deep Purple?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so do you know who Roger Glover is?
I've heard of him.
Okay, he's the bass guitarist from Deep Purple. Well, this is his song.
Oh, nice.
Back in 1975. Absolute classic. This is Love Is All by Roger Glover, by FM.